I know that golf can be an expensive sport, so I'm going to share with you how to get some good performing irons at a reasonable cost, but beware, you still can get scammed along the way. So I'm going to outline how to avoid all of that while learning from my mistakes. Right now, I am gaming the 714 AP2s from Titleist. These irons are over 10 years old, and I actually partook in a fitting with Tim. We went over and hit all of the new Titleist iron heads, the T100, the T150, the T200, but I wasn't getting any noticeable differences over these AP2s, especially once I changed the shaft. I also re-gripped these as well. You can see a nice colorful green from Rip It grips. So you can see on all of the grips of my irons, they're different colors, different designs. I think that this is very cool. If you want some for yourself, use code CHONGER for 10% off on Rip It grips. But also stay till the end of the video. We're gonna be announcing the giveaway for some Rip It grips, so maybe you're lucky. And guys, if you're new here, my name is Chonger. I'm an average golfer with the goal of trying to get to scratch. I've been documenting my journey along the way, sharing some tips on how to get better. And so if you aren't already, hit the subscribe button and follow along on this journey with me. The first thing that you need to do, and I would say that this is mandatory whether you're buying new irons or used irons, is to go through an iron fitting. That way you have a better idea of what head you need or the shaft or any other small details. I'm going to share with you a good example and a bad example of a golf fitting. So if you have been following my channel since the summer, you would know that I'm working with a new coach, Tim Wilson, and we have fit a lot of the clubs in my bag so far. So we've tackled the wedges, driver, and irons, and every club that I have got fit, the performance has been so much better. So Tim does a process called dynamic fitting. So that means that he's observing me hit balls on TrackMan. He's observing the data. He's looking at my ball flight. And from there, he's suggesting things that will change. So we could change the different club head, the different shafts. He's looking real time, how I'm making contact with the ball, if I'm making center face contact, if I need to adjust things. So the end result is to obviously hit the middle of the face. And he's doing a lot of tweaks on the fly, changing the different shaft, maybe the loft angle, the length of the shaft, etc. just to try to get me to hit the middle of the face, because that is when you're going to get the best results. And so if you are getting fit, I would recommend getting a dynamic fitting. This is how I would say 95% of golfers get fit anyways. But if there are some people who still get fit the other way, I just want to let you know that a dynamic fitting is a lot better. It is more catered to you, so you'll get better results. The other alternative to a dynamic fitting is called static fitting, and I will share why this is not optimal. And I actually unintentionally got charged for a static fitting, and after that, I was so surprised because it offered little value to what I already knew, and it cost so much. It was $100 for pretty much nothing. So here's how it went down. After my fitting with Tim, I knew all the specs that I needed. I needed an iron shaft half an inch shorter, my lie angle 2 degrees upright, and I also needed the Nippon 950 shaft. Unfortunately, Tim doesn't actually do the reshafting himself, so I had to go somewhere else to get that done. I went on Google and I tried to find someone, and I thought I found someone reputable. He worked with a lot of people, and so I gave him a call and I pretty much laid out all the specifics that I needed, and I asked him for a quote. He said that he couldn't give one off the top of his head based on what I needed, but then he said, come to my shop. I want to show you how I actually reshaft irons, because the process that I do is a lot better than everyone else. I do a thing called peering, and you'll be blown away by this process I want to show you. So, I thought, like, I'm gonna go and maybe I'll just learn some new information to share with you guys. So I go to his shop, it's about an hour, and the first 50 minutes or so, we talk about his equipment, the process, people that he's worked with in the past, and he's also going through my bag and giving me some advice on different clubs that I would need, which was kind of contradictory because when I first met him and he was talking about Tiger's wedges, he was talking about how Tiger's wedges have rust on them and the performance is a lot better than some of the people with other wedges because of this rust. But then like later on when he's going through my bag, he looks at my wedges and he's like, the grooves are a little worn out. You should get some new wedges. But my wedges are raw and they will rust. So I was a bit confused. You said before that wedges that rust will be better than new grooves. I don't know. That's besides the point though, because I've also heard that wedges with rust don't really impact anything to begin with. So I just took his advice with a grain of salt, but I just wanted to point out that contradiction because, anything that he was saying, I wasn't really fully believing. So after he social proofs himself, talks about all of his achievements, we finally get to me, and then he asks me about my height, measures my hand, and then he pulls out the ping fitting chart and he says, okay, your irons need to be half an inch longer and you just play normal lie angle, no upright. So this is totally different than my dynamic fitting. And he says, thanks for your time. I spent an hour with you. Now I'm going to charge you $100 for a fitting. Now, I was shocked because what value did I gain from this? I didn't really learn anything. And also in the back of my mind, I didn't think I could really trust what he was saying because one, he was talking about the equipment like peering iron shafts. But afterwards, I did some research and I think that peering is done on a specific machine. And that machine that he had in his shop was not a peering machine. I think what he was going to do was called spining or splining. So one, if you're gonna mislead about the equipment that you're using, and then also if you're talking to me contradictory about wedges, I don't know if I can fully trust you with reshafting my irons. And then two, if you're gonna take some basic measurements, which I could do myself, like why am I paying for it? I didn't really gain anything from that. Now, I do want to say that static fitting does have a place. Maybe if you're first starting and you don't have a repeatable swing yet, then I think a static fitting can get you in the right direction. However, I don't think that two people, even with similar measurements, swing the same. So why should they play the same iron setup? And I don't think that the average golfer is striving for that perfect swing. So you can't just measure it based on a standardized approach. I think you should get dynamically fit so that way the iron fits based on how you're actually swinging the club. Peering your shaft can cost an extra $45 per shaft. Is it actually worth it? And if you weren't aware what peering an iron shaft is, I'll briefly explain it, but I'll leave a more detailed video down below. So an iron shaft made out of a sheet of metal. When you turn it into a shaft, there's a weld point, and then that is the strongest point of the shaft. So when you're peering it, you're putting it into a machine and you're pretty much finding that weld point. And then based on that, you're going to position the shaft into the club head at the most optimal position. Forgive me if that was an oversimplification, but I don't think that is worth it. And if you watch the video that I have linked down below, you will see why. And in that video, he pretty much did a comparison of peering, spining, flowing, and pretty much the test of or what the benefit they say of a peered shaft is when it moves up and down, you'll have a tighter dispersion. So you're supposed to get more consistent results. The golf shot or the golf swing doesn't move in that repeated oscillating pattern that they're testing for when you're peering a shaft. It's actually just one strike. So on that first strike though, you don't need a tight dispersion. I don't know if I necessarily explained it the best, but I guess what you're actually doing for a peered shaft just doesn't line up with actually how a golf swing works. So if you were gonna pay an extra $45 for this, it's kind of a waste of money. I mean, there are people who stand behind it. And I mean, all PGA Tour pros, I think, do get their shafts peered. But I mean, if you have unlimited resources and you do want that peace of mind, then by all means, peer your shaft. But I think for the average golfer, it's not gonna be worth it. So to save the most money, you actually should try to do the most that you can on your end. And I know that some of the things along the way can be intimidating, especially when looking at the right golf shafts to order. And when I was first on the GolfWorks page, I was a bit confused on what to order, and that's what prompted me to call Golf Town. I wanted them to order the shafts for me. But if someone orders the shafts for you, it's an extra upcharge of like $10 to $15 per shaft. So you can easily find the right shaft for you. So if you're on the GolfWorks page, what you need to do is first look at your iron shafts. If they don't give specifics on what iron it relates to, like mine didn't, and it just gives you certain measurements in inches, then go to a different shaft and it should have like 3 iron, 4 iron, 5 iron, 6 iron, etc. There will be an iron shaft with this, or you can just take note of this page that I screenshotted right here. And then when you go back to your actual iron shafts, then you can just input the same iron shafts. And even for me, when I was going to get it 1/2 inch shorter, they actually do that there. So just buy the normal shafts. Don't actually buy them 1/2 inch shorter to begin with. And so earlier I was kind of mainly talking about repurposing old irons because that was my examples that I was going through. But if you're actually going to buy used clubs, you need to look out for these two things because club builders do charge extra if they have to do this kind of work. You want to look at the loft and the lie on those particular irons that you're buying, because if they have to adjust those, they charge per club. And fortunately for me, when I first got fit for my AP2s, they were 2 degrees upright already. So when I reshafted them, I didn't have to pay anything extra. All I did was to pay to reshaft and regrip my irons. So to summarize what you need to do when buying some used clubs or repurposing some old ones, you should first get fit. Second, get a detailed quote of what you need to be done so that way there aren't any surprise charges. And 3, try to source as much of the materials as you can beforehand, the shafts, the grips. That way you're avoiding getting upcharged. And speaking of grips, let's announce the giveaway winner. So thank you for the continued support on this channel. I do want to do as much giveaways as I can. So without further ado, here is the winner of the Rip It grips. So ATP4469, send me an email at chongergolf@gmail.com. We'll get you all sorted out for some Rip It grips. And best of luck for everyone else in the future when I do some future giveaways. Feel free to use the code Chonger if you weren't lucky on the giveaway but still want some cool grips. And now to get the most out of your irons, I would recommend getting some lessons. If you haven't already, definitely check out my lesson videos with Tim. I guarantee that you'll learn a thing or two. Anyways though, thanks for making it to the end of this video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Peace.